Welcome back to the X Podcast. I am sitting here across from Tim Moore. You know, once in a blue moon, we need to clarify that we're not related.
Yeah.
We're not brothers. No nepotism involved. And I think I explained that to our special guest today on the phone the other day. We have Amber. I'm going to butcher the last name, Ginter.
That is correct.
Oh, that's
Amber
great.
Ginter.
Okay, part of me wanted to say Ginter, but it's Amber Ginter. You currently reside in Chillicothe, Ohio. And I don't want to steal a ton of your story, but we connected, I think, back and forth emails over the last few months, correspondence, but also, this is a win in my book. You are friends, acquaintances, something with Alana Bradley here at church. Her and Nick are two of my favorite people. They're amazing. And I asked you this over the phone, but just for our listeners, you've been to Roast Coffee, right?
I have.
You've been to Roast Coffee. Have you been to the new one that just opened up in Circleville?
I have not.
I have not either. I think it just opened last week.
It just
something
opened last
like that.
week. I think so.
I'm so excited. I've heard it's amazing. But we're big fans of Trent, Branson, who was trained by Trent, and they think I'm crazy, but I used to like weekly.
Yeah, that's a drive. The
I
vinyl?
mean, back me up. It's like an hour from here to Chillicothe.
Oh, yeah.
An hour drive. And I used to go once a week on Fridays.
Wow.
And that was my drive where I would listen to podcasts on the way, decompress from the week. But anyways, you have an amazing story. I mean, not only just what you've gone through in your life, but teacher turned author and podcaster, and a lot of the emphasis around mental health. And so it's a big question, but, you know, for people meeting you for the first time via this podcast, walk us through a little bit of what has made Amber Amber and brought you to this place in your life.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for being here.
Yeah.
And Russ did have to clarify that you weren't related, even though you have the same last name. I was like, I didn't ask, but I assumed.
Yeah.
So bad assumption.
It's a family legacy.
Yeah.
It's something you don't do as an author, make assumptions.
That's right.
So like Russ said, I am a teacher turned author. I spent 5 years teaching high school English, and so I started at a Christian school, and then I transferred to public, which was, you know, a really fun, crazy experience. I always knew that I wasn't called to necessarily be a teacher, but I knew that I was called to do something with writing or an authorship. And so those years, it was a lot of perseverance and endurance to get through it. I taught around 1,500 students in that time, and so I worked at the second largest school in Ross County, which, my last year I had around 200 kids, and that's a lot when you're teaching regular English and advanced English and all the things. But I would say what makes me me is really that word, like resilience or perseverance. It's something that I've seen as a thread through my life if people would ask me. And so I always like to say that my story started when I was in the womb. I was actually born prematurely, pretty significantly, almost 3 months. And so when I was first born, my mom always said I was a fighter. And so I had to stay in the hospital 31 days. Had multiple blood transfusions. My lungs weren't developed. And so she and my dad would drive up every day to see me, to see if I was going to make it. And then really from there, I started growing up. I didn't really have any major health issues. But even though I grew up in, I say, a quote-unquote Christian home, that didn't spare me from a lot of tragedy and really horrible things that started happening. And so I believe when I was 10 years old was when I was first threatened by my half-sibling that he was going to kill me. And so I remember that kind of happening. I was on the phone. I picked it up. If I find out you're lying to me, I'm going to kill you. Dropped the phone. The batteries were corroded, went flying everywhere. And thankfully, I had grandparents that lived a minute from my house. And so I would go stay at their house in times of danger. And so that's when I was 10. And, I just it happened and just move on. And that's life. And then when I was 14, I started noticing more symptoms and weird things happening. Like, I started seeing drug overdoses, or I saw...
Like in your family?
Yes, in my family. And so I started, then my house wasn't safe to be at, or I'd notice bruises on certain people, or just like these kind of underlying symptoms. And yet I was always just told that somebody has it worse. And so I just thought, okay, like this must be everybody's life. And it really wasn't until I was 14 that my dad got placed on disability, and I started noticing really similar symptoms. Unfortunately, in him, I had seen in my half-siblings, and my half-siblings didn't live in my house technically. Like, my parents tried to get custody of them, and that didn't work. And so it was kind of just, they show up, and they move in, and then they move out, and then they move in. And so there were always random people living at my house, but I still clung to my faith through that. And so when all that happened, I even look back on some old messages. You know, as a writer, I go back and read journals and read notes. And I remember writing, like, but God is still good. And in that time, I actually developed an eating disorder and addiction to exercise, just as my way to cope. And so I was in that for 7 years. When I got to college, God freed me of that. Praise God. And,
Wait, hold on. Can you pause for a moment?
yeah.
Can you, just for my sake, unpack an addiction to exercise? Like
Yeah.
that's just because I think for a lot of people that's a really foreign thought or idea.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious what that looks like.
Yeah, most people have an
Yeah.
addiction to not exercise.
Yes, that's why I'm like, when you said addiction to exercise, I'm like, whoa, hold on. Can you tell me what it looks like?
Yeah, so it sounds awesome, especially in the culture that we live in,
Sure.
Because there's like this fitspiration is what everybody says, or
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah.
Inspiration. That's why you have two waters.
Fitspiration.
Is because you're so.
I sat down. And
I
was
think
like,
you sat down with one, and there's two in case you need it. No, explain it, because I guess in my mind I would immediately go, especially with an eating disorder, is that every time you ate, you felt like you had to exercise.
Yeah.
Would that be a good guess? I mean,
It can be. It
Okay.
really looks different for everybody.
Okay.
So the clinical term is orthorexia. So if you think of anorexia or
Yeah.
you think of bulimia, it has that exia on the end. So it's ortho. It's kind of an obsession with being healthy. It is seen a lot with eating disorders. And so it's not only what you eat, but like obsessing over your body to the point of how you exercise and how long you exercise. And it's very compulsive. So it's related now in the classified disorders of like OCD, right? So for me, it started out as like, okay, I'm just going to jog for like an hour. And then it was, I'm going to jog for an hour and a half. And then it was, I'm going to jog for 2 hours. And it like, I made it up to like 3 hours a day where I had to be moving all the time. And so I think, you know, that started when I was 14 and then went for 7 years. And so I had a lot of like ups and downs. I would say that my eating disorder was more in the form of like anorexia. So like I would pack food and then not eat it and just throw it away. But I was also like compulsively exercising. And so
wow.
Almost like to
that's what I would
cope.
define it
Is
as.
that how? Because like when
Yeah.
you say
Yeah.
that, I'm like, oh, like maybe I mean, well, because they make fun of me because like I'll you know, in certain seasons I'll go run for an hour, then I'll go to the gym.
Yeah.
And but I've heard of, you know, especially in type A, not a stereotype that can affect anybody, but in type A people, it's like an over exercising to cope. That if I miss, and that's where I'm curious. I'm not to derail us, but where the line may be between a healthy outlet, because a lot of times a lot of mental health experts would say, hey, a lot of us, we need a healthy outlet. And exercise, I mean, scientifically, the serotonin, the dopamine, like there's a lot of health benefits that can come, mental health. But at the same time, at what point does that go into like an over dependency to where, oh, if I don't work out today, I'm not okay?
Yeah. And I'm obviously not a therapist and I don't have all of the training and ins and outs of that. But from personal experience, there's definitely a sense of like a loss of control, and suddenly you are not in control. That thing is in control. The eating disorder, the need to compulsively exercise, because for people that are struggling with eating disorders or addictions to exercise, it's not even what you're doing. It's like, well, it has to be this amount of time and it has to be this frequency and this endurance. And so for me, that's like the
OCD element.
Yes, the
Yeah.
determining factor was like, I was literally jogging in place for 3 hours. It's not like I was really burning that many calories and I was just hurting myself. Now, for other people, though, it could look like, okay, anytime that anything bad happens, like they have to work out and then in this way, and they won't miss anything for that. If they're sick, if somebody has a problem, if there's an emergency, it's like hell or high water. That's what they're going to do. And if they don't get it, they get very irritable. And so like that irritability is a really big piece. Now, yes, like, do I get irritable today if I don't get a workout? No, but I might not really feel good.
Right.
Like I feel kind of like sluggish because I'm sitting all day.
Right.
But there's definitely that OCD component of
Makes
it.
sense.
And that's where we say that it's like an addiction.
So you said you were freed of it. Can you walk through like what does it mean to be freed of that? And the reason why I'm asking is, one, I'm curious of not only were you freed of it, but you would say, as you just say, you still exercise, you still work out, right? So it's like freed of an addiction, but you still engage, because it's not an addiction of something that is dangerous or bad for you, obviously, but it could be. So I'm just curious, even for people listening or watching, that whatever their addiction or struggle, I think that's a big question that a lot of people have is, how do I break free of this?
Yeah.
And so I guess I'd love to know how that happened. Because it seemed like you were going to just gloss right over it. And I was like, wait, hold on. I need to know this part.
And then a
I've
miracle
not heard
happened.
it.
And then,
I've not heard about exercise addiction. That's a new one. And I wanted to, but anyways.
It's good. And my story is so complex too. Like, I remember the first time I went to therapy and I'm like unpacking all of this. And my therapist is like, he's like, you do know you've gone through trauma, right? Like, we can go back and pause. I'm like, that's fine. I'm fine. So I do that. So, yes, I think that's really important to talk about. I was 21, and it really felt like when I got to college at 18, God kind of started stripping me of things, and that's always how it goes, And so unlike my experience with anxiety and depression, which I'll talk about later, which I feel like are still struggles for me, I think that I'm going to struggle with that this side of heaven, and that's okay. I can use that to help other people. But for the eating disorder, it was kind of crazy. I'd never experienced God in quite a miraculous sense before, except for when I was little. When you're little and before all the bad things start happening, you just pray, and it's like, oh, God answered my prayer. This is awesome. Life is awesome. I remember when I was 10, I had a girl trip me on the playground, and they told me I broke my wrist. And all that weekend, I cried and prayed because Amber Ginter did not want a broken wrist. And so I went, and they scanned it, and they were like, I don't know, your wrist is healed. That was the first time that I was really like,
Wow.
What? But then you grow up, and everything's hard, and my dad is sick, and my siblings are crazy, and
Right.
I'm praying and it's not getting fixed. And so I had prayed, and I think part of it was like a denial, right? Like, I would lie to myself, I'd lie to my parents, I'd lie to my friends if they asked if they were concerned. So part of that was the denial aspect. But when I was 21, I grew up a dancer, so I was still dancing. I was at practice. I landed a double pirouette, which is just like a double turn. And when I went to land it, I don't know, something in my body tilted, and I went crashing down, and all my body weight went onto my foot. And in that practice, I was like, uh-oh, that didn't feel good. So I got up, put my shoe back on my foot,
Gosh.
drove home, take my shoe off, my foot's swelling up, and I'm like, oh no. And so I always say that God set me free by breaking my foot. And I went
You couldn't exercise.
Yes, with exercise. And I went into the bathroom, and I slammed the door, and I started crying because I knew, well, I broke my foot. That sucks if you're addicted to exercise. And I remember screaming, and I was like, why did you do this to me? And I never really audibly heard God, but I felt like in that moment I heard him whisper, you know why I did this? And I did this to save you. And I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And so I knew that he was right. And it wasn't okay, poof, it was magically gone. But over those months of recovering from a broken foot, and it was a bad fracture too. It was my 5th metatarsal, which is the worst one to break. I started learning, oh, I actually can sing, and I can play the piano, and maybe I should think more about my writing. And I just started to learn kind of those healthier patterns of what it does look like to exercise. I started getting into running for the right reasons, and exercising in groups and with friends, and seeing it in a different way, not to count calories and not to do all these things, but just as a way to live and to bring glory to him. And I think obviously I've still had my ups and downs with that. Being free doesn't mean that I never struggle. It doesn't mean that I never have those thoughts, but it means that I've learned the coping skills and the way to get through it. But it was crazy for me because it truly felt like one day I knew the calories and everything. I would write them down. I would count them. I knew and could live and eat and breathe and sleep everything around what I ate and exercised. And then as soon as he broke my foot, it was just that part of it completely disappeared for me. And it's crazy.
A lesser preacher would say that he freed you by fracturing you. It actually feels like the literal walking out of Psalm 23. I'm sure you've heard it before, and some people debate this part of it, but it says, "He makes me lie down in green pastures." And it's that whole thought of like, some of the people that study that time, so shepherds would literally have to break the legs of the sheep when they were about to continue to walk into danger that was lethal and mortal, so that they could take them to a place where they could recover. And it sounds like in a beautiful way, however it worked out, that God led you to a season where you had to rest and you had to become whole. And I love that. So it's in that season that you feel like he set you free from those disorders. Out of that, is that where a lot of the anxiety, the depression, all of that came, or how did all that come in and out of your story?
Yes and no. My mom always called me a worrywart. I've always been an anxious person. As I continue to explain the upbringing I grew up in, you would probably say, yeah, I'd be anxious too. But I feel like the anxiety and depression were kind of always there. Like, I'd be nervous how to open my locker at school. I begged my mom every year that I could be homeschooled because I was so scared to go to school the first day. So there were like the little things, right, that go away once school starts. But no, truly what started it was after I was healed of the eating disorder. I was a sophomore in college when that started. I had to go 5 years. And during that time, I felt like I started to really find myself. I was really confident, had my identity, kind of knew who I was in Christ apart from those things or accomplishments or whatever they might be. And it was really what amplified the anxiety depression was as soon as I graduated college, which was 2019, literally the day after college, I landed myself in the ER and would continue to land myself in the ER for the next 6 months, where anytime I ate food, I was in excruciating pain. Did not matter what I ate, I was in excruciating pain. And that did a number on my brain where I felt like God was punishing me because when I could eat food, I chose not to. And when I now it was the opposite thing was happening. So I wrestled a lot with that, and my family chaos continued to get worse and worse. I've been victim to a lot, and I mean a lot of verbal and emotional abuse, which this is going to sound wrong, but statistically speaking, can have just as significant damage on individuals as physical abuse, which is just crazy when I've read that to learn through studies that can cause just as much damage. Nobody's ever hit me or laid a hand on me or that kind of stuff, but what I saw and what I felt and experienced. And so I think that is where that anxiety and depression not only was coming to a head of, okay, I've lived in this my whole life. I'm now 23 at the time I graduated. But now, not only that, but now I'm sick and something is wrong with me. And so took them about 6 months and got diagnosed with 10 plus physical and mental health issues. I went from being healed and free and running 3 miles every other day and being a dancer and dancing 2 to 4 hours and all this stuff to I could barely walk up the stairs because I was in agonizing pain. And that really amplified the anxiety and depression. And it was the first time that I was I think something is wrong with my brain and I need to talk to somebody about it. And my best friend, I'll never forget, she said, I think you know what you need to do. You just don't want to do it. And I was like, oh, why do you have to be right? And so she was talking about therapy. And that was when I started therapy. It was shortly after I graduated college and helped me learn how to start managing the anxiety and depression because all my life somebody had it worse and I just stuffed it down and I move on and God is good and it's all fine. But God doesn't ask us to act like everything is fine when it's not, or that we don't have permission to struggle or to come to him with those struggles. And so journey of
sometimes that's a really hard lie to defeat sometimes. Whenever I'm talking to somebody or counseling or whatever, or if it's just a friend and they're and I hear that language of, but I know everybody has it worse. I try to stop and be no. That's not helpful. What you're facing matters. What you're experiencing matters. What you're feeling matters. But when it's me, I've noticed that I tend to do that on myself. I'll just be like, Russ, come on. Do you realize how good you have it? Get out of the pity party. And so I just think that's very real. I think a lot of people, it's a hard. Why is it so hard, do you think, for us to give ourselves permission to feel what we feel and to allow ourselves to be sad about it without guilt, to be honest about it without shame. Why do you think that is?
I guess it depends if you're asking a Christian or you're asking a non-Christian, for one. For Christians and non-Christians alike, I think this culture that we live in makes it seem like you have to have it all together, right? And I am type A, just to confirm.
Are you?
From earlier.
Oh, what's your Enneagram?
Oh, my Enneagram? Oh.
I mean, if you're into that kind of witchcraft.
I think I'm it was either like a 1-wing 2 or a 2-wing 1 or something like that. Like a helper and then something else. But
yeah.
I think that in this world, that's all we see. You get on social media, TikTok, Instagram. I don't care. Like, I taught high school. I saw it. It's like we put filtered faces. Everybody has to look like everything is okay all the time. And then, unfortunately, like for me, what happened was when all this is going on and I went to the church about it, and I mean the church as in like groups of people, not just like one specific church. I was told, well, are you reading your Bible? Like, are you praying? Like, did you ask God to take it away? And I'm like, do you know me? Like, yes, I'm praying. Yes, I'm reading my Bible. It's still here. It's still a problem. And so I think then we start internalizing that, right? Like, it's like what we see on the stage isn't what we feel in our hearts, right? Because we sing all these songs about how great God is, but rarely do we sing lament songs, right? Where it's like, God is good, but actually life really sucks right now, which is what the Psalm says a lot.
Right.
And so I think that we see this complex, right, of like Bible is telling us that we can come as we are, but then some of the people that say they believe that aren't acting like we can come as we are. And especially, like, sadly, we see it in the church, like, more often than even the world, where it's like there's these people in the front row that are just like jumping up and down for the Lord, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're standing there and you're somebody with anxiety and depression and you're like, gosh, I don't feel like that, what's wrong with me? Like, then we do start believing those things where, okay, well, it's not okay to be sad. I guess I just got to shove it down, and the joy of the Lord is your strength, right? Like, I just need to move on. But when we actually look at Scripture, that's not what God says at all.
Some people don't realize there's an entire book called Lamentations.
Yeah.
An entire book of laments. And we don't I feel like in the West in particular, not even just Christianity, we don't have much room for that. You know, they grieve for Moses for 30 days. And, you know, we have like a one-night funeral, and then we move on and go back to work. And but, yeah, so you go to the therapist. And, I mean, what were a couple that just, you know, some of the initial insights or tools or just aha moments that helped you begin to move forward?
I think the first thing, I mean, it's all going to sound simplistic, right? But when you spent years internalizing those, like, lies, like, well, somebody always has it worse or something like that, you have to really start at the beginning and unpack it. So for me, it was first, like, acknowledgement, just acknowledging that I had been through trauma. I think that we often see trauma as these huge events, right? Like, I didn't live through a hurricane. I didn't live through 9/11, like, all these things. But you don't have to have those things happen to have trauma impact you. And so I think a lot of that was acknowledgement, was freeing for me to be like, yeah, actually, I've been through a lot. I'm pretty tough. Like, you know, just being able to acknowledge that. I think second is, like, realizing that I wasn't alone. People would tell me that, but actually being able to walk through and start sharing my story with other people who would then reach out and be like, hey, like, thanks for sharing that. Like, I didn't realize you had an ED. Like, I also had one, and, like, I never would have known. And just, like, the empowerment that comes, I think a lot of that scripture that talks about, you know, things that are hidden in darkness will be brought to the light, and how that's kind of what I saw it as, is I kept so many things under wraps and in the dark closet, right? But there was actually a lot of freedom when I brought it to the light. And so more practical, cognitive behavioral therapy was really helpful for me, and we see that a lot with scripture of identifying negative core beliefs. For anybody listening that doesn't know what that is, just you can Google negative core beliefs, and you're like, wow, 100 things I believe about myself that aren't true. But really, really poignant thing is, like, I have to be productive to be worthy. I have to have a six-pack to be beautiful. I have to, like, you can fill in the blank. I have to always be busy, or XYZ is going to happen. And so my therapist helped me identify those things and then replace that with what God's word actually says. And then learning to integrate, like, that with deep breathing and breath prayers and, like, you know, breathing while I'm reading the scripture. Those were just, like, some basic things, but if I'm completely transparent, I think that it's not like I went to therapy and was magically healed.
Yeah.
I have been in therapy since 2019. I'm still in therapy, but I have to share this because it's funny. And the very first session I went to, filled out my paperwork, gave it to the therapist. I'm with the same therapist still. He's great. But I said, well, how long do you think this is going to take? Because, like, I'm really busy. I have a lot of things to do. Yeah. And he just smiled and tapped his pen, and he's like, well, as long as it takes, Amber. And I was like, but how long is that? And he was like, I don't know. And neither do you. And so I think that, like, giving that process time, and there's always things that you can heal from with therapy. Even then, like, since I've been in therapy since 2019, it's 2025, which is a long time. I'm actually, like, I just started medication in February and finally was able to take that step where my anxiety is, not that you'll be surprised, but it's very high functioning. So to the rest of the world, I look awesome and overproductive and amazing, but that is not a way to live. And it's exhausting to work 12, 14-hour days, even when you do what you love. And that's when I realized, like, okay, I think there's also something still wrong with the brain. And I have been in therapy and I do the work and I put in the homework. And so I was always supportive of medication for anyone, really. I mean, I know it's not for everybody and it doesn't work for everybody, but I was always in favor until it came to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's it going to do to my body? Like, I don't know.
I'd love to pause and just highlight a few things because, you know, there's a lot that you said. I think we can extricate for use and purpose. Anybody listening, I mean, one, bring things into the light, which for you, it sounds like that started with a therapist. Of just being honest, there's something powerful and healing. I was talking to somebody the other day that just brought something, you know, into the light, and it was just like, that's half the healing, James. You're healed when you, then CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, like, I joke that David was the original CBT, Psalm 42, like he's crying out, then he turns around and says, but why are you downcast, oh my soul, and speaks to himself. And it's that whole thing of, we get in trouble when we listen to ourselves more than we speak to ourselves, and we don't direct our thoughts and replace the ungodly beliefs with what God's word says. And but then the breath work, that's been something big over the last 10 to 15 years. But I wrote, I'll have to find it. I don't know about you, I have a long list of books that I keep meaning to buy and read, and one that's I've heard so many people mention this over the past year. I'm curious if you've read it, but I think it's literally just called Breath or Breathe. Like, did you read any books on this, or like what does that look like? How's that been game changing? Because to somebody that's not like looked into that might sound so simplistic. Like, okay, I breathe. You mean just do yoga, like breathe in, breathe out. Although anybody that's walk somebody down from a panic attack or a moment knows the power. I can't tell you how many times I've done this with a friend over the phone. Hey, breathe in with me slowly through the nose for 5 seconds, through the mouth, breathe out slow as you can for 5 seconds. Like, even just in emergency moments. But like, tell me, I'm looking for the name of this book, but tell me, like, what do you do now for breath work? How has that changed you? Like, let us into that world.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot of controversy around this, so totally cool if you're listening and you disagree and you feel differently. Like, no martyring me on the stake. So, yeah, there's a lot of studies on breath work. I mainly just use like what my therapist and I kind of talked about. I don't know that I've read a specific book on it. You can find a lot of resources. For me, what that looks like was, you know, right after I got diagnosed with all this stuff, I was having a lot of panic attacks to the point of, like, I would be driving a car and my blood pressure would go from, like, or my heart rate would go from normal to, like, it would, like, drop or it would elevate like crazy. So, like, my heart rate, for example, would go from 50, and I'm just driving a car, to, like, 150, and I'm just driving down the highway. And so I had to learn to do something so I wouldn't become a hazard, right? It almost, if you know what, do you guys know what vasovagal is? Okay. So,
I've
like,
actually heard it.
yeah, like, you can just pass out really easily. So not only would that be happening with my heart rate, but then my vision would start going black while I was driving. So really scary. I promise I'm a safe driver, but if I'm really anxious. So what that looked like for me was breathing in through your nose for 4 seconds. Then you hold it in your mouth for 4 seconds or hold your breath. Then you let it out through your mouth for 8 seconds. The longer that you can hold that breath out is actually better. So sometimes I'll do like 12 or 15 seconds. But while I'm doing that, right, so if I'm in my car having a panic attack by myself, if I can't easily call my husband or put the radio on or do something to distract my brain from those anxious thoughts, I have a little like card that's stuck down in where your speedometer is, and it has a Bible verse. And so I will mentally recite the first half during those inhales and then mentally recite the second half during the exhales. And it kind of gets me to focus on something else. If you're in a situation where you're with somebody, like if I'm with my husband, he will help me breathe and he'll tap my arm and he'll say the inhale, like, okay, Amber, we're going to inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, but like slowly. And that was really, really helpful for me, because the crazy thing about anxiety, especially if you're high functioning, is that everything in you wants to get everything done right now. And right. And you're like running and running and running. That's, if you've seen Inside Out, it's like, I think the little character is amazing. I said that's me all the time because her hair's up like this and she's right. But the one thing anxiety doesn't want you to do is to slow down and to stop. And as somebody that still has anxiety, I hate being still. It is so hard for me. But it's hard because it's good. And like the moment that I stop and I actually just set a timer for 5 minutes and deep breathe, or go for a walk with my dog, or I just do something else, that the anxiety is going crazy, right? It's a little bit of exposure therapy too, where it's like, don't do that. This is going to happen. I'm like, well, what if? What's going to happen in 5 minutes of me deep breathing? Yeah. Like, am I going to miss the most important email in my life? Probably not. So I think that some of it is sometimes even letting that anxiety know that it's not in control. And as my therapist likes to say, it's like, I see you. Hey, thanks for alerting me. I appreciate that, because anxiety is important. It can be. But also, this is not a situation that I can't take 5 minutes to breathe. You know what? Yeah. That's okay. And, you know, when I was teaching, it was a little bit harder. I can't just like stop class and like deep breathe. But I would learn things that I could do while I was still moving. Or
do you have a Christian therapist?
Yes.
And so that's part of your journey, mental health, but you're still seeing a therapist. And you know, if you've listened to our podcast, or we're big advocates of people going to see counselors, therapists, and recurring, going back. And so I love that. And you've turned a lot of the pain you've been through into purpose, not just for you, but into a platform to help others. Walk us through some of how you've done that. I mean, you have your own podcast now, and you're writing and you're speaking. So what does some of that look like right now?
The biggest thing about using your pain for purpose is knowing if, and I think I told Russ this, or I told somebody this, someone, is that we have to be careful about using our experiences to help other people, right? And that's why therapists a lot of times won't bring up their experiences when you're sharing yours, because they want the emphasis to be on you. So my mentor and one of my writing coaches once told me, the way that you can know if you're ready to share about something is if you're writing from a place of healing or if you're writing from a place of bleeding.
Yep. Right.
Because if you're still bleeding, you're going to bleed all over the page and you're not going to help anybody.
Yep.
So I think for me, it was first getting to that place of my own inner healing with like the things that I've gone through, and that has taken a lot of therapy. It's taken a lot of journaling. And even after my one half brother, he passed away in February 24 of overdose. And I remember just writing him a letter. And that was a way for me to heal. Was he died and I never got to say goodbye, but I had all these things I wanted to say but didn't get to. So I wrote that letter. That was a way that I could heal. Many years later, well, I guess about, like a year later, I was able to take some pieces of that and write something and share it. And I got such good feedback of all these people that were like, thanks for sharing about losing someone to overdose. Like, you don't know how much that means to have someone acknowledge that. And I was like, yeah, like it took me a while, but I wanted to write from a place of healing and not bleeding. So so after teaching 5 years, I always knew I was supposed to be a writer. God told me that when I was 14, when all the chaos in my house exploded. But I didn't know what it was going to look like. And everyone around me kind of told me being a writer was unrealistic. I needed to pay the bills. So that's why I majored in English. I thought, well, I like reading and writing. It's the same thing. It is not the same thing. But and I think that teachers have such a gift, but that was not a gift that I felt like that I enjoyed. Like, I knew that God was using me, but I felt like I was called to be somewhere else. And that was really what I told my boss when I left. I said, I feel like God wants me to do something else full time. And he, and I worked in a public school, but he said, I shouldn't tell you this, Amber, but if God is asking you to go somewhere else, I can't ask you to stay. And that was just like such a cool confirmation working in a public school. So I never knew how it was going to turn out. And when I was teaching, I found a program called the Author Conservatory, which basically teaches you how to write and how to business. So I graduated from there with not only professional writing, but also business and entrepreneurship and marketing skills. So I kind of I like to compare it to like a master's degree level is basically what it is in professional creative writing / professional writing, and then business marketing and entrepreneurship. And they are who I give all the glory to God for helping me realize that I could use the pain for a purpose. And so they helped me identify, am I in a place where I can write from healing? And what experience do I have to share? Because I'm not a therapist. Who am I to say these things? And they helped me to realize that I still have a voice and that people can still be drawn to the authenticity that I have, which goes with the podcast Authentically Amber, because I never want to pretend to be somebody that I'm not. I went through that in high school. I knew what it was like to try to be somebody else and try to fit in. That's not me. And so I think that in everything that I do now as a writer, as a speaker, I'm working on traditionally publishing some books, is the story I'm telling is not about me. It's about them. And it's about how the pain that they've gone through can also be used. And that doesn't mean that everything happens for a positive reason, right? I can't tell somebody that's been through trauma and abuse and all these horrible things, well, like God wanted that to happen. No, but we serve a God that says what the enemy meant for evil, like I'm going to use for good. And so I want them to feel seen and heard in that.
One of the things I love about your story, though, is, and that is so true, like, especially in traditional counseling, like, you're not making it about you, you're making it about them, and you want to be wise in the story you're telling, and yet at the same time, it's your story that gives you credibility to speak to somebody else. It's when you choose to be vulnerable that makes a bridge and that connects, and you're saying, "Hey, I've been through this," and I think that's really what gives other people the courage to then open up. And there is that tricky place, like you said, of I've heard other people say, speak from your scars, not your open wounds. And yet at the same time, one of the things I love about you, I think this is the healthy place, is you're not bleeding on people. You're speaking from scars. And yet you're also saying, hey, I've not arrived. Like, I'm still on a journey too. I'm still hacking through this too. And I think that really is, in my mind, the sweet spot when you're walking with people through stuff of how can I have done the work to where I can lead them to a place of healing and yet be human with them in the process. And none of us arrive this place of eternity, but it's beautiful. So the book's not out yet. Is that correct?
Correct.
Can you give us some teasers, some sneak peeks on what's down the pike?
Yeah, and I want to comment. I love that you said that about kind of the journey. I think of it as like all these people are walking in a line, and it's like I'm on the journey with you. I'm just a little bit up here because there's some things I didn't know back here. Yeah. And so I never want people to think like that it's from a know-it-all perspective either. And I think that that's where, in my writing style, I try to be, I call it like a big sister approach, where I still want to relate to you, and I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm just sharing what helped me in the hopes that it might help you. So
I love that.
So I'm actually working on 3 projects. My agent and I are pitching them in January. So the first project is called Tired on the Inside, Finding Hope When You Aren't Okay. It is written for Gen Z that has been given cliche answers to mental health struggles, like just pray more, just read your Bible, just have enough faith. But instead gives them practical resources that are biblical tools to help them manage anxiety and depression. We walk through the 6 different factors that I believe impact your mental health. So things like your thoughts, your emotions, your relationships, your environment, all of those things. And so we go over those. And that's kind of like the overview project. When I originally pitched that project, I was just going to write it. But in feedback from publishers, they really wanted feedback from a therapist. So I am now actually co-authoring that with a therapist from Ohio State University, and she is the assistant director of their suicide prevention program. And so
That's awesome.
really, really excited to kind of like have her insight. We're still keeping the language very friendly.
Yeah.
So that's like the overview first book. The second one is called Can I Ask That? It's also written for Gen Z, but it's more like a guided devotional interactive journal where there's all these questions, right, that we have when we're growing up that we want to ask, but then we're also a little bit too nervous to ask it or embarrassed. And so it goes over in a devotional like format, big questions like, is anxiety a sin? Is it okay to take medication as a Christian? But it's topics that relate to not just mental health, but adulting, like, you know, what is a dependent on my tax form and why do I need to know what that is? Like, so there's all different categories of questions that
It's love language.
we talk about. And then my third project is a really special project with my friend who is a mental health advocate as well. Her name is Felicia Joy, and it's called Psalms in the Dark. And so it's written for Gen Z or anybody really that's walking through depression and helps them walk through the Psalms, because I love that you mentioned earlier about David and CBT.
I love all three of your titles, by the way.
Yeah.
Those are great titles. I do remember on the phone, and I'm glad you brought it up. The Can I Ask That? What a great
It's a great title. It is. That is. So you're right now in the process. I'm so curious. You're in the process of with the agent in January pitching all three to traditional publishers.
Yes.
So tried to basically get a deal for all three of them.
We're hoping. We'll see what happens.
And now, so okay, can I ask the story? Your story is amazing, and your journey. I love how you're just taking your story and just trying to use your experience to help somebody else, like a big sister. I think that's cool because you're basically saying, I'm not trying to do this as a therapist. So whereas a therapist doesn't use their experience, you're trying to use your experience to relate to people and probably give them some tools and help them, which I think is beautiful. I think we all have a story to tell, and we all have. We joke about, we say, you know, I think there's a lot more people that have a book in them than they realize. And so it's cool that you might have three or more in you, which is great. I'm curious from the writing standpoint, what's the idea behind pitching three projects versus one? I guess maybe I don't know if you'd want to, if you have any thoughts or insight on that. Is it like, well, showing them, look, there's multiple projects here at work, or hey, there's three. Do you like one of them? You know, I know this is a little bit of a diversion to.
I told you we'd get into the weeds of that.
it.
Yeah.
I think it's curious.
I am an open book. Russ probably could tell you
Yeah.
that. You can ask me anything. I'll answer it. No, that's a great question. So I signed with an agent in, let's see, I resigned from teaching in May of 24.
Okay.
And then I signed with her in July. I pitched to her in June. So my original intent was like, I went in with the tired on the inside, and we pitched that for like the whole past year. 19 rejections later, here I am.
There you go.
Where
That's how it works.
all of them have told me, and this is glory to God, but all of them are like, wow, she's such a good writer. Like, this is so good, but like, yeah, like her platform's not
Exactly.
like Sadie Robertson. And I was like,
Yep.
what? Sadie Robertson?
They say you don't.
5 million Sadie Robertson? Like, I'm like, okay.
Heard the same thing
So-
from an agent.
Yeah, and you're just like,
No path to 10,000 sales immediately?
I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh. And like, and even my agent was a little bit, I think, like, saddened for me. Just that is what publishing industry has become. I remember telling my writing mentor, he became a bestseller at 18 years old. He's now 35. But I told him, and he was like, you've got to be kidding me. He's like, I'm so mad for you. And so kind of the idea was like, I have always been somebody that perseveres, and I pivot, and I know how to stay true to myself, but just switch a little bit to be what is going to work in the marketing. So actually then what I did was in, let's see, about a year later, so like this past July, my agent had an idea for like a question and answer book. I said, okay. So I pitched it to an acquisitions editor for Tyndale. She was like, wow, I love this. Like, I think that we want this and the original project. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get a double book deal. And then like just a couple weeks ago, it was like, oh, yeah, actually you don't have the platform that like that publisher wants. And I'm like, okay. So it's definitely been a journey of growing the email list and the social media, but my ideas have evolved so much now where it's like, okay, they said it was either platform or I'm not a therapist. So you know what? I'm going to write that one with a therapist. So there you go.
Yeah.
So there you have what you want. I have what I want. The question and answer, it's like, okay, well, it was for teenagers, but you're saying that teenagers don't buy books. Okay, well, now it's for Gen Z. They definitely read books, and if they don't, they'll listen to an audiobook.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of both. It's like I want to show them, and they know already, but they know that I'm not just a one book deal. This is what I want to do with my life. It's what I feel called to. But also, it's like, here are 3.
Yeah.
Which one do you like, and how can we move forward? At the same time, though, growing my email list and my platform and all of those things. So I've grown a lot. I went from, to give you numericals, I mean, I went from like 1,500 emails was last year. I'm up to 20K now.
Wow.
And so it's like, I know
That's
how to do
much
things.
bigger,
I know that God has given me this, and I give him all glory that what's happening is happening. And I just know I'm like, okay, like he has something better in store that I can't see. And I don't know when that book deal is going to come. But I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And like,
I love
he's
that.
faithful.
That's cool.
I was wondering if it evolved like that, which
Yeah.
the beautiful thing is now you have 3. And so when one of them
Ready?
takes off, you have the others in the pocket.
Did you? I'm curious. Have you written these?
So
Are they portions? Have you are you pitching the idea? Because
yeah. So I didn't mention this earlier. I don't even know that I told Russ this on our phone call. The difference with nonfiction is they actually don't want you to have the whole book written, because if you write, like in my one book, Tired on the Inside, there's 6 dimensions. If they're like, I don't like dimension 5, and I've referenced 5 all through the book, well, that's going to suck to rewrite it. So you actually just write sample chapters. I've written around 5 sample chapters for Tired. You only submit 3 typically, but I had so many times this book, like when I say I got 19 rejections over a year, that book went to the final place where they would offer me a contract like 5 or 6 times. So I had written multiple extra sample chapters that they asked me to write because they're like, oh, you talk about the church. I want to make sure you handle that well.
yeah,
Give me that extra chapter. So then I have to write an extra chapter, and then they still reject me. But so I've written about 5, and then the devotional book, you just write a couple samples.
Yeah.
Same with the Psalms. But the funny thing with my agent, though, that I didn't mention, that I think you'll just think is funny, is when I first really, really got serious about being an author, I wrote an entire memoir that I called The Story I've Never Told. And I tried to pitch to an agent, and it went miserably.
Another
And-
great title.
yeah. I know. These are good jobs.
Great
The story I've never
And-
told.
And I felt like my story didn't matter. And once I went through this program, they showed me how I could use pieces of that story, not as a memoir, but to help other people. And he led me to pitch to the same agent, and she offered me a contract on the spot. And like, it was one of those moments where I was just like, I'm not pitching to her. Nope. She rejected me. I'm not. And like, everything lined up, and it was just, she was so excited to meet me. She didn't even remember the first time I pitched. And like, she was just like, I don't do this, but like, I'm going to email you a contract. And I was like, and she's a legit agent. It's not like the creepy ones where you're like, what? But like, I say that to say, like, it has been cool to see how God has evolved, and like, everything just has such a purpose. That's how I trust his faithfulness, is like, I don't know what I'm doing, but he does. And I'm just pivot
Well,
and move.
At some point, if it works out, no, you're busy. I think we were talking offline. You're booked up with podcasts till you said August 2047 or something like that.
Not
but
quite.
but I told you on the phone. My dad was an English teacher for 30 years, high school English teacher, and I have a pretty nerdy obsession with words, and so I love meeting people with an affinity for literature, and I don't know, who knows, that could be another fun conversation one day. As I say that out loud, probably just for us. I don't know how many other people would find that fun, but
Just along.
I guess one of the things I would just, in closing, we've been talking for a minute, but I did want to ask you, one, curiosity, but 2, for the sake of people listening, we are in, as of today, I don't know when this will come out, but it is December 3rd, and snow is here, cold is here. I didn't think SAD, this is going to sound bad, but not that I think it's real, but I didn't think SAD, seasonal affective disorder, was as real as it was until I moved here from the South. And then my first year here, I bought one of those LED sunrise slow alarm clocks and started buying the vitamin D, and we've done a couple podcasts just thinking through just like, mental health tricks that help us, which he doesn't ever deal with this stuff, but but I'm just kidding. But Pastor Tim is one of the most resilient, steady people I know. But so I feel like every other year it will affect me, and I don't know. Does that bleed into, magnify any of the things that you already struggle with? I guess would be part A of my question. Part B, to anybody listening, I know you're very careful saying I'm not a therapist, but are there any things encouragement you would throw out to anybody listening that's like, it's winter's here. I can feel the dread. I can feel the struggle coming. What would you say?
Part A, definitely. I hate seasonal affective disorder. I always tell my husband, if I could choose, I'd live in 90 and sunny all year. We went to Joshua Tree on our honeymoon, and I was like, I need this. So
that dry heat.
Dry heat. I love hot weather. He does not, but I am a happy person there. So it's definitely real. It definitely makes things worse for sure. For me, having a dog has actually helped a lot because he has to go potty.
That's what you need.
Stop.
You need a dog for your house.
Stop.
Thank you for saying that, Amber. I appreciate that. We're going to go to a pound and pick one out soon.
Yeah, we're going to cut off this podcast now.
Oh, I keep trying to get him to get a pet. You need a dog.
Okay.
Thank you. So
For
dog
reals,
number one.
though. For reals.
What?
They're so sweet, and he just looks at me, and he's a rehome, but he's a golden doodle. So his name is Oso.
Wait, a mini golden doodle?
No, a full size,
Full
big.
size. Okay.
He's about 70 pounds. He turns 3 December 16th, so we call him Baby Oso. But he has to go potty, so I hate going outside in the cold, but I have to get out, and I give him a sniff walk, and so that ironically can be really helpful, just forcing me to go outside. And I get cold if it's 60 degrees, so I hate it, but just forcing myself to be out, even if it's already dark out, just getting fresh air. But I think SAD can affect anybody, even if you don't normally struggle with anxiety, depression. My best friend, we've been best friends since I was 10. She'll even be like, oh yeah, it's dark at 4:30, it sucks, I'm so miserable. And so those lights that you mentioned in the house can be really helpful. Around the holidays, it's helpful, having Christmas decorations, having a movie to look forward to, more practical things.
Are you a Stranger Things fan?
That's so funny that you just mentioned that. Yeah, I'm obsessed.
Have you watched the new?
We have 30 minutes of the last episode, so don't spoil it for me.
Oh, so good.
But yeah, we'll watch Stranger Things, or reading a good book. So having those things to look forward to on the calendar. Even this, I was I'm super excited to go be on the podcast. It's kind of dreary out, but I don't care. So forcing yourself, which is really hard when you have depression. And that's where it's helpful to have that authenticity with somebody else to say, hey, that I struggle with depression. Can you come with me? Because I'm not going to back out of plans if I already made the plan with somebody. But I'll back out of it with just me, right? I can just skip that workout or whatever. So those are some practical things. And there's a really good book too by my friend Tanner Olson. I don't know if you know him. He's a pretty popular poet, publishing with Tyndale, I believe, this February. And he actually self-published a ton of books at first for poetry. But he writes a lot of poems about just those simple things that you can do and how to
cool.
Be real with God and go outside. And I was reading his poems this morning, and he was and eat chocolate and good chocolate and pet the dog and watch dog videos for 20 minutes and just things that I think when we grow up, we forget that we still need enjoyment too. And God doesn't look down on doing basic self-care hacks for yourself. Take a bubble bath. I don't care. It's going to be different for every person.
He loves bubble baths.
I think that's what I think you need a dog and a bubble bath. Those are two things that you need that would.
I will say, if you didn't want a dog,
cat.
one thing that I did,
Okay.
No, but
I'm allergic to cats, but-
cats.
Oh.
No, here's the thing. I love dogs, and one day I would love a small, cute little dog. It would not be fair to a dog in this season of my life because
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
gone all the time. I live alone. Like it just would not be. I just don't think it'd be fair to
Yeah.
the dog.
You'd have
one
to change
day,
your life
Yeah.
completely.
completely. This guy,
Like when I'm
yeah.
around, like when I go to homes with people that have like little dogs, I love it. Like I love dogs.
You need
Oh,
a
yeah.
dog.
But
Well, here's my recommendation. You could volunteer at a shelter, or near my shelter, they have where you can take a dog out for a day.
Yeah, rent a dog.
Just so that
I was literally just gonna say it. This is a brilliant
Not
idea.
renting.
Rent a dog. I'm
Not
gonna have a dog
renting.
and start a service.
well, it's like
For
you take out
sad
the
people.
dog to like just spend time with it for
I'm not a
just-
sad person.
And
No,
then-
seasonal affective disorder people.
Okay.
We
That's
did
our
it.
name.
We did it before we got our dog, and it was really nice just to like, hey, you felt good, like you got him out of the kennel for 8 hours, and we took him back.
That's cute.
And like, or you can like, I used to bake dog treats and take them to the shelter and just hand them out, and it brought me so much joy.
All of these are just
you
brilliant
are-
ideas for. I'm just picturing.
Amber, you're inciting.
I'm
his
picturing
mischief.
Russell doing all of these
You
things.
are inciting his
I want
mischief.
to hold on. I want to say one thing to what you said because there's something though that you said kind of in passing that I think is a really great idea, and I recognize because my wife would fit into this category of sad. I mean, like she complains every day that it's dark. She hates the cold. She asks, "Why are we living here?"
She wants to move to
This
Florida.
everything. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like she's learned over probably the last 5 years, 6 years. She was like, "No, I really do. I get. It affects me. Let's just put it that way." But when you said like putting something on the calendar, and let's even just go beyond that, having something to look forward to, I have found that is a really big deal. And like even if it's a trip,
Yeah.
like we're going on a trip with the kids in January, and so it's like having that. What she tell you is like she thinks about it all the time. We've got this. Like it really does help. Even like the simple stuff, like we get this series to watch. Oh, we have that. And I almost like the idea that I think this is just without trying to skip over it. I think this is a really great idea. How do you give yourself the permission to have really good things to look forward to?
Yeah.
Put them on the calendar.
Yeah.
This day we're going out with these friends. Like,
It's
just
funny.
like going out to eat with some friends. It's
Yeah.
just that kind of stuff can just doesn't matter what's going on.
Yeah.
You just feel so different because of that moment.
It's funny so I use like Evernote for my day to day.
Okay.
And then I have iCloud. We use Outlook for stuff here, but then I have an iNote. It's master calendar, and I have the month and broken down my month, and I have like the big things so I don't miss them. But then each month I've like written in dates for this upcoming album comes out, this concert, this movie comes out, this dinner club with friends, this whatever. And so I'll like every few days or so I will look at that, and it does do something. And kind of like on that note, it's funny because I've been thinking about lately, I'm kind of behind the ball, but Dr. West, who's been on here, who's been kind of like a psychologist, counselor in my life, earlier this year in the winter, we were having a Zoom session, and he lives in Orange County, hard life. And I was telling him, I'm like, I was just opening about things in my life, and then I was like, and then also like, it's in that February, right?
It's
in
a February
February, if you don't live in
It's bad.
Ohio, it's in February
February's
that you're
rough.
like, is life worth it?
Yeah.
And why do I live here? And I just, and he said, Russ, next year you need to put something on the calendar for the end of January, early February, to take a trip to somewhere in warmer weather. And so trying to figure out how to make that work. But to echo his echo.
Yeah.
I love that thought because there is something about having something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I've even learned, because I am type A and because I struggle with anxiety, I even have learned to put like rest days on the calendar, or so this is gonna maybe not make sense, but like even putting like breaks on the calendar, because I'm somebody that'll work for like 12 hours and not stop until all the tasks are done. And so this December, actually, I felt like God was wanting me to take a Sabbath. And so I pretty much I'm just working on Mondays, and then I might have a few things like this here and there. But I was like, okay, that's what I'm doing. But before that, what I started doing was I would take one day off a week where I was like, I am not allowed to do work on this day. And so even putting that on my calendar, I would just my husband was so proud, I'd put Amber day off. And he
I love
came
that.
home one day and he was like, you put Amber Day off on the calendar. He's like, I'm so excited. I said, why? And he said, because you put it on the calendar, it means that you won't put anything else on there. And I was like, well, that's true. So I think that it works both ways, where it's like, you have that thing to look forward to. You also have that like protected space. And if somebody asks you, sorry, I'm busy.
Yeah.
What are you busy with? Well, there's something on my
Yeah.
calendar. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just kind of the world we live in, I guess.
Big fan of the Sabbath. I think that could heal a lot of us if we were to reclaim that.
That's good.
I lied. I got one last quick question.
No, I love it.
You know, a lot of the way you're allowing God to use you right now is for you to be a resource. But I'm curious for you, what resources you're currently reading. I mean, obviously, you know, you're in therapy, but, you know, you mentioned your friend that has a book out on poetry. And it was interesting. You mentioned, I love the idea where you're co-writing with a therapist. It reminded me, I keep wanting to get it, but Judah Smith
Oh yeah, just
came out with that book where he co-authored with Dr. Les Parrott. And I think it's called like Bad Thoughts.
Something about thoughts. Yeah.
But basically about your thought life, your mental health, and looks like an incredible resource. But curious, like favorite authors in that genre of, you know, what you're doing. Like, do you have any that you're currently reading or favorites that you throw out that have been helpful?
Yeah. So if you want something that's not, you know, not just mental health, I guess, like kind of just like uplifts you. Tanner Olson is awesome. A lot of his books, like I said, are self-published, but he's really, really famous now, which is crazy to say. And so he does a lot of great speaking events, but like his is cool because it's spoken word. Like he does like spoken word poetry. Never really quite seen that through someone before. I also am a huge fan of Andi Kobler. You've probably heard of Try Softer is like her big book, or what's her other one? Like Soft Like Water, I think.
I don't think I know her. Do you know?
Andi Kobler. She's
Andi Kobler? Okay.
Yeah, Kobler. She's a therapist, but she writes kind of in that big sister language, even though she's a therapist. So her resources have helped immensely.
Yeah.
Let's see. Tired of Being Tired. That's a book by Jess Connolly, or I don't know how you say her last name.
Yeah.
Wait, is that the one that we're having?
Jennifer
for Inspire?
Connelly?
Connolly?
Jennifer.
Well, better not.
Connolly? I know her first name is...
What are some of her other books? Do you know?
Oh, she just spoke at She Speaks this past...
I think
Tired of not being... What'd you say it was called?
It's called Tired of Being Tired.
Tired of being...
It's white and purple.
Hold on, I just want to look.
I wonder if that's who.
Some people say it's Connolly. Some people say... I don't know.
Jen Connolly? Isn't that her?
Can I see?
It's
It
the
was
book
Jen.
you're talking about.
Yes, that's the book.
Can we announce? Is it too early?
I don't know. I think so. Maybe. It is her, right?
I think that's who
I
we're
gotta,
having.
I gotta look at...
Jess.
I
Her
think
No,
name's
it's
Jess,
Jen.
though. Oh,
No,
Jen.
I think it said Jen.
So I believe,
Hold on. Jen.
She's great though. She's a pastor.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I'm pretty sure it's... She's tired of being tired?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, but I saw it. She speaks.
Oh, wait.
She's cool.
we're bringing her
It
in
did
for
say-
Inspire Conference.
Oh, that's cool.
If we're
I
thinking
think
about
it's
the same
her.
person,
No, I
yeah.
think it is her. And then this says Jess Connolly. I think it is.
Yeah.
She's a big deal.
It is
so
Jess
she's-
Connolly.
Yeah,
You're right.
she's
It
very
is.
similar to
I couldn't read
Andi
this one.
Coulter's voice, but
Okay.
she's not a therapist.
Okay.
But she is great, and gosh, other
Do you
resources.
do like Dr. Caroline Leaf, Dr. Henry Cloud?
So yeah, so I have a couple of Henry Cloud. Caroline Leaf is super
That's not.
famous.
Oh, go ahead. Caroline Leaf.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
I don't even know. And then what's the one? I wouldn't recommend this as like a practical gonna help, but if you're just really curious, like how trauma and mental health impact you, is The Body Keeps the Score. Like,
Yeah, I've heard that.
That is on my
Amazing.
ongoing recommended book thing.
It's
That
so good.
for
Does
the
it
last
talk about
3
the
years,
psoas muscle? Have you heard? Does it talk about the psoas muscle? Have you heard that?
I have
About
heard
the
of it.
muscle in your hip that holds your emotions or whatever, and that people, when they even get massages and different things, they literally can have like an emotional experience when they have
interesting.
that part, the
I don't know if
psoas
it's
muscle.
bad or on purpose, but there's a lot of spin-off books of that right now that are coming out. Have you
Oh,
ever
really?
heard that? Like a lot of like, even Jess mentioned a book the other day that's like the body. It was like that, but
Yeah.
there's like
Yeah.
like 3 or 4. But okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
I want to honor your time.
Yeah.
Love your story. I
Thank
love your voice. I love your approach. We're big fans. For anybody that wants to find and follow you, what's the best way to do that? Also, I know you have a mental reset retreat that you do. So for anybody listening, all the things, how can they get involved?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. It's been such fun. And you can find me at amberginter.com. AMBERGINTER.com. All my resources are on there. You can follow me on Instagram, is where I'm the most active, at Amber Ginter Author. And then, yes, as Russ was saying, I'm so excited, but I'm hosting my first ever mental reset retreat at the Golden Acres Lodge in Hocking Hills.
Beautiful place.
Beautiful. It is June 5th through 8th, 2026. It's 4 days, 3 nights, and we're bringing in therapists, fitness coaches, pastors, authors, speakers, all sorts of things. We're going to have food, and so everything's included. It's going to be a really awesome time to learn some of those CBT skills, as well as just connect with other people that struggle with anxiety or depression or any mental health struggle, and also be in a beautiful nature. I think that nature helps a lot with mental health, and so it's actually the very first co-ed mental health retreat I've ever seen, and my husband and I are hosting it together. So there's spaces for couples that can stay together that are married, and then there's separate spaces for men and women, and so we have 12 spots left, I believe. There's going to be about 30 people there. But tickets for that are at amberginter.com/mental reset. And it is primarily, it's created for 18 to 30-ish. But we have already gotten some signups from like people in their 20, 30, 40, 50, 60s. So I think it's just going to be a whole family experience. So cool. And I'm super excited.
I love that.
Would love anybody to come.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
Very
good.
cool.
Well, thank you for being here,
Thank you.
sharing your story. I think it resonates with our church just because we have addressed mental health multiple times. We've done a few different series on it. We recognize the demand, sadly, in our community, the number of people that we interface with that are just battling with some form of mental health. Our goal was always to try to remove as much stigma as possible. We try to I would say it this way: we try to destroy all of the Christian cliches that go with it. We are, and yet still try to be very real and practical and helping people kind of how to navigate that in the way we do. Yeah. Which including we did a big mental health series. I guess it's 2 years ago this summer, so it was a year and a half ago, where we brought in a psychologist. Yep. Where we brought him in, Wes Beavis, to speak at it, to do an event at a kids' night thing that we did. So we kind of had him on the podcast. So we just kind of believe in investing in that for the sake of our community. It's a big deal. Yeah. It's a really big deal. And it's affecting especially the younger generation in the really significant way. Yeah. Which could be a whole nother conversation on why. Yeah. We've got a lot of thoughts. We've had tons of conversations on it. I'm sure you do as well. So, but thank you for being on here so much. Yeah. Really appreciate you sharing your story, being vulnerable. Yeah. That really does help people. That's what we know. It really does help people. Just somebody to tell their story and to let them know you're in journey, but you're healed and healing at the same time. Healed of some things, in healing process on other things, and sharing that journey. So thank you.
Of course. And I appreciate your guys' church and like your willingness to share that mental health, because a lot of churches don't talk about it from the pulpit. And so, I had to stalk you guys before I ever reached out about being on the podcast. So I had listened to a lot of the sermons that Russ had shared, and I was like, okay, their sound were good. So you just don't always know that that's what you're going to encounter. So really, really respect what you guys do as well.
Well, thank you.
Well, and also, likewise, you're the only person, since you brought it up, that's reached out through email that we've ever said yes to.
Yeah.
Well,
we get a lot of emails. Most look like AI driven, but when we saw yours, then it was like, I read it and was like, wait, she said she's in Chillicothe. She mentioned where we are, that she's been. I'm like, this might be. So that's when I checked with Alana. Alana goes, I know her. Yeah. She's awesome. I love her. I'm like, okay, well, let's reach out to her. So
I love her too.
Yeah.
I always saw her at drama club at OCU.
Oh, yeah. She's still there.
Oh, yeah.
She's wonderful.
She's still there.
I joke that I know what's going on in her life when she posts, because when she posts, she's going to post about one thing. Drama club.
That's it.
That's it. So, yeah, thank you for being on. A holistic, integrated conversation around mental health is really important and really essential. And so, thank you. And for anybody watching online, again, you can find out everything with Amber, get involved. I'm sure they can sign up for, email all the things. Just, I'm sure you can find it on her Instagram and on her website. But thank you for joining us as always. All the information is in the outro about how to get in touch with us, and rate and review and subscribe. But until next week, we will see you next time.
Hey guys, it's Russ. Thanks so much for listening. We really believe if we can get around tables instead of behind screens, if we can talk to each other instead of at each other, we can make the world better. To help us do that, here are a few things you can do to help. First, if you haven't yet, leave a review on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe on YouTube. This helps more than you know. Also, if you have been impacted by the community out of which this podcast comes, that's X Church. Maybe you're local or you've been touched by the messages and impact across the country, even the world. I want to encourage you to support this work. A powerful life principle is to invest in the people and places that invest in you. And so I want to invite you to do that right now by going to thex.church/give. You can give a one-time small gift, a sacrificial gift, or even become a recurring partner. Together, let's keep elevating the conversation, thinking higher, loving deeper, and making the world better. Cheers.